it's noon, and being a believer in the tight curtain of the theater, we'll call this meeting to order. And our guests, we have Karen Scout. Hi. And we have the media, as in the Gazette, Mr.
Leisure Brooks.
Leisure Brooks, okay. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do I have?
So moved.
Moved by David. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the agenda has been approved. Okay, take a few minutes and look over the minutes that Jane so diligently recorded for us.
And emailed to us. And I wasn't here, so it's not appropriate that I make a motion to approve.
I need to make sure I get that, I realized it in it, okay. And then, because he didn't do it.
Patrick,
Patrick?
Dot,
Yeah.
Whalen, 70 @gmail.com.
That seems like that's what I had.
Is that when you were born, 70?
Early in the dream.
Is anything capitalized?
Patrick Dot Whalen, W-H-E-L-A-N, right?
WGLAN.
Sometimes I switch those around.
Because it's
70.
spelled differently than it's pronounced.
Yeah. Okay, well, we got that. Do I have a motion on the minutes? Anybody to approve?
Motion to approve.
So noted. Second?
Nobody
I
was
wasn't
here.
here.
So Paula and me, I couldn't exactly say when we were here. She wasn't here either.
Oh, you can second.
I wrote them. I'll second them.
All right, you go for it,
The chair can
girl.
second.
Huh?
The chair can second.
Can you?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought I was like above it all.
Mary.
You are.
Okay, the motion's been made
I'll just put them in.
to approve and second. Made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, the motion carries then to approve the minutes. And Sydney isn't here as of yet, so we'll skip the treasurer's report. I haven't heard anything from him, but, I'm assuming he sometimes has to come in just a little bit late. And my chairperson report, we have, it's all about appointees, about resignations and appointees, I guess, but welcome Patrick Whalen has been appointed to, this is all kind of convoluted, who you're actually appointed to fill their spot, but I think you were appointed to fill Jody Jenkins' resignation. So then we had Dulce Salas's resignation, which resulted in Jody Jenkins' reappointment. And I don't know for sure if Jody is going to be with us today or not, but tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Mr. Whalen.
Who knows?
I do.
My former life, I was a Catholic priest. Had the first Mass here at St. Joe. And
I did not know that in the first mass here.
And was in seminary for 12 years and a priest for 5 years, left in '74. And then 8 years later, I married my wife, Jamie Haslam. Didn't change her last names, we had 2 last names. I was an alcohol and drug counselor for years and worked in domestic violence perpetrators for many years also in the Jefferson County jails and consulting and stuff like that. And then I've been retired for I don't know how many years now. And live here in downtown on East John Fitch, in that house that Joe Buckman did recently. We just love being downtown and walking to everything. So, and have one daughter who just took her first job out in Wichita. So, and I'm 73, almost 74 years old. Young 74. So,
Well, we're welcoming.
Thank you.
I was delighted to hear that you've been appointed and accepted the position. And I don't think as far as like your 2 months absence, like I said, we'll try in the, at the change of the year, we'll keep you in touch and let you know what's happening and if we need.
Because every January and February I'm gone.
Okay, well, as Jane said, our current policy is like 3 absences, it starts to become a concern.
We could Skype it in.
Well, we
Yeah.
could, if, assuming that we had
FaceTime.
the
Just kidding.
technical expertise. So, can you pop up with that? Can you
Well,
s-
and there's open meetings requirements as well, and as far as establishing a quorum, I mean, he can listen in, but
Okay, well,
The vote would be different.
5 is a quorum, correct?
Mm.
Okay, so I mean, I think we're
Whatever
about
it says
to
in your Catholic.
come back out of our little slump here. The second part of our, I'll wait and see if Jody comes and talks about, her reappointment. We did get a resignation from Bruce Reynolds, and David, you said he was here earlier?
he
Yes,
came by to
was.
say.
He dropped off.
Oh.
He jumped off the book.
These books for me.
Oh, okay, so it just sort of, all right.
So it's
And
reading
I've
material.
told, he's a county appointee, and I've conveyed that to Dean once. And also, I gave him a list of some people that had been suggested by various ones of you all in the past, but so far I haven't heard anything back, so we're 1 short officially right now in our number. And
What's the official number?
10.
Okay.
We have 5 city appointees and 5 county appointees. And it's a 2-year term, is that correct? 3. Okay. And then the other thing that I would report on would be our annual recognition event, and I had been going to wait and see if Janet, have you heard from Janet or any of these? Okay. Well, I'll wait till the end of some of our reports and come back to that if you want, because, we had quite a bit of information about how that went. But she is the chairperson of that committee, so I'll wait and see if she gets in here before then. And if not, then Carrie and Jane, I will report on that. So our standing committee reports. Budget committee, again, we don't have Sydney. So I'm not sure, we do have a little, no, you're on the budget committee as well, aren't you, Jane? No?
We 3 make the budget committee in the bylaws, the chair, the treasurer, and the secretary. We are the budget committee.
Okay, so, when he usually he's a chair, and he makes a report of that. Okay. Well, what will happen with the budget committee report, Pat, just for your information, is that we'll have some activity, a little more activity than we normally have because of having had that annual recognition event, which is kind of our bigger event of the year, or our biggest expenditure of the year. Legislative committee, Mr. Floyd.
There's nothing that I have seen on legislature that's been introduced, but I haven't been looking.
I have a rather lengthy report, but
Okay.
again, legislature doesn't meet until January. And I'm always concerned about unintended consequences of bills, concerned about the power of ALEC.
There's no legislation about ALEC.
No, there wouldn't be, but ALEC,
All
most
I'm
of the
getting
bills
at
that.
is, this is,
Yeah.
can be an exhaustive report if you detail all of your objections.
And I have. Yes.
But
It would be nice to be made aware of what's pending, and then we can make our own decisions about, whether or not it's.
ALEC isn't pending. You see my point? There's no
ALEC's-
legislation regarding ALEC.
I don't even know what ALEC is, so I'd like to know what it is.
American Legislative Exchange Council.
And it had a big hand in passing along, and getting the writing of legislation and getting the legislation passed at the beginning of the last legislative
It
session.
provides model legislation for all the states.
Yes, it does. And it is a group of powerful moneyed interests, has lots of money. And you've probably heard of some of the groups. They're not all necessarily connected with that, but like the Koch brothers or the Pew Trust, and the other trusts. They do a lot of good, but they also have an ideology. And as you said, you can go on and on about ideologies and about the impact of ALEC. Part of their ideology, I think, and I think equally, is to weaken the public sector, to demonize it and pose it as a threat, especially with talk like deficit talk, and it publicizes deficiencies of public groups. And instead of sometimes correcting problems, it'll use the problem as a tool to weaken public trust, public confidence, build public apathy to what's going on in government, turn people off of government with a nothing can be done attitude. And the result of that can be that they'll do away with regulations or with having the government strong enough to provide services for people. We see the government workers now are overworked and underpaid. And then that can lead to privatizing what government's doing and controlling the agenda. What I'm leading up to is, and this is concrete bills that have passed. Okay, they've passed both houses, it's not law yet, and that is the federal tax bill. That has, it's now in conference in order to have a final thing. And it's based upon that idea that trickle-down economics, which even Pope Francis has said doesn't work, people. It's not hard to demonstrate that trickle-down does not work. And yet we have, and this is legislation that is passed the Senate and passed the House of Representatives.
The U.S.
The U.S., yeah, we're talking federal, it's federal. It will, and their group, has shown that it will increase the deficit, not lessen the deficit. And it's a nonpartisan group that has done these kinds of studies. I think that either of these bills, and they'll go together to come up with a law, will weaken the government's ability to provide for its citizens. It is a double tax in that both bills contain where they will tax. You cannot write off the taxes that you already paid the city and county, and that will weaken. And that to me, that's almost against the Constitution, the income tax amendment, which did not allow this double taxation. And it will it'll strengthen oligarchy as opposed to democracy, because it is a big tax benefit to the wealthy and to those groups. And our state, unfortunately, is poised to follow that same kind of thinking. And there will be, the legislation's probably already being written by, they've introduced it in other states, for example, Kansas. And it has led to lots of trouble. Governor Bevin wants tax reform. Tax reform is on the agenda. There's no bill, but tax reform. And it will be it will increase the tax burden on local, county, city, school districts, and by less, anyway, and state services have been weakened. In the last legislative session, they passed a measure that allowed lobbyists to have a little more clout. So right away, ALEC moved in to have a big lobbying group with lots and lots of money. And money can often talk. And weaken the power of government to protect its citizens from corporate greed or from powerful outside interests. And ALEC is an outside interest. It's now in Frankfurt. The last legislation strengthened what lobbyists could do. I think that we need.
Excuse me, do you have a number for that legislation? Or can you?
Oh, there's no, I don't have a number for what the federal bills are.
Well, that's okay.
But there's no.
There has been
last year it passed that lobbying groups could do more.
Okay.
Is this in the state?
That's the state, yeah. Now, I'm kind of making several points here.
Well,
Because
I
the
guess-
federal government
I guess
is
the
the one
chairman's
who.
question is, what was the legislation passed that sought to strengthen lobbyists' positions?
They can now,
I
you used to
know,
couldn't
do you
accept
have
it.
a
You remember
bill
you
number?
couldn't accept what the KRS number is that let them do that?
Not the KRS, the bill that was passed in the last legislative session, the one you're bringing up now.
The one I'm bringing up now is, remember how you couldn't even accept a cup of coffee there for a while? That kind of, that's the bill I'm talking about.
Kentucky has the tightest and is nationally renowned for its ethics laws with regard to lobbyists and influence. It's a model state.
Well, but anyway, it has been even, it's not the same as it was, because now they can do more. They can spend, dark money's always been able to be spent. I mean, not always, but that's a different issue.
Okay.
But back to where I'm getting at. I see that on the state level, we are facing some of the same things. It's the same ideas that we have on the national, and in the national it has passed, both Senate and the House of Representatives. And on the state level, what the thought is that they will continue to give these big tax breaks. Kentucky gives, almost $13 billion away with tax breaks. It only takes in $11 billion. And I would think that as a group, now we can't, when we're dealing with the state, it's still up in the air. There is no bill. There's no legislation. They don't meet till January. But on the federal, there is a bill. It's concrete. And I would like to move, and it probably died for lack of a second, but I would like to move that as a group we take a stand against either of the two federal tax bills that have passed, because of the damage that they will do to city and county government, damage they will do to citizens and their ability to seek redress from government because of the impact that these financial considerations will have on government agencies.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes,
This is under the agenda legislative committee report.
yes.
And now, this was not a legislative committee report.
Oh, we had not met, that's true.
And
He's right.
so, if the minutes would reflect that this is not a legislative committee report, I'd appreciate that.
Okay,
Additionally, it seems that it would be, since it's not a legislative committee report, that any motion that be made would be under new business.
Fine, I'll make it up.
okay. All right. Point taken. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Would you?
Well, I won't undertake a point-by-point refutation, so,
Okay,
which we would have done in committee perhaps.
okay. All right, who's our, and this brings me to something in which may need to be in another spot, but we need to appoint a third person to our legislative committee as well, don't we? Isn't that what you all, who is currently?
Bruce Reynolds.
Bruce Reynolds?
And no, Jody Jenkins. Jody Jenkins was
Yeah,
here.
Bruce's ordinance.
He's
Oh,
on
okay,
this, yeah.
okay,
Jody Jenkins was on this one.
okay, all right. And I'd like to make a suggestion that you all make it a point to have a meeting, and I'll be glad to attend if I, you know my schedule, I teach on Monday and Friday, but otherwise I'd be glad to attend and, kind of see where we stand on all this. And you want to wait and make a motion during new business? Okay, all right, that works for me. Our publicity committee, Jane, I believe that's you.
That's me. We need, our publicity committee, at the needs member, because I did not feel confident in ordering anything, being the only member of the committee. And Mike Yaden is on the committee. He's not a member of the commission, but he deals with Facebook. And so I need to have another member. Jody Jenkins also was on that committee, and of course the chair. But
Okay.
publicity needs another member before we can do things like we had talked about before, such as ordering some publicity materials to have at events like Buttermilk.
And am I correct that we can have we can have members on our committees that are not commissioners?
Yes.
Karen Scout, would you be interested in being on our publicity committee?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that you would bring some great skills to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, as far as publicity is concerned, I have a copy of the article in the Standard in regard to our event. And I also want to, I had it written down to be sure to compliment the Bardstown Gazette and Jim Brooks. It was, to me, a masterful job what they did. They took that long annual events committee and they condensed it to maybe, and yet they got the high points. They got how we had covered the fine arts. They managed to show how it related diversity. So I want to kudos and thank you very much to the Bardstown Gazette for how they took that.
I have a question about that. I was never able to access it. How did one find that?
Well,
Who else has seen it?
I've got an app, the Nelson County Gazette app,
And
or they're on Facebook and they'll link to it there, or website.
Yep.
so when you go to the website, where did you find it? Because I went looking for it and couldn't find it. After I asked, I looked under videos, I looked under news.
Oh, on their website?
Yeah, on the
Yeah,
website.
they've got it, I know what you mean, there's an
It-
issue there, but, you know, they'll go down and they'll do, is it deaths or obituaries, I think it's deaths, but it does sometimes take a look, if you get the top headlines for the last week, it's there, you click on it, but anyway.
Since you're here with the Gazette, would you be willing to send me like an email telling me how to get to that?
can do that.
I mean, because I spent about 30 minutes trying to find it. I went through the week, several weeks afterwards, because I was interested in seeing, it sounded so good when you were telling me about it.
It was amazing to me how you took that much material and you did this, and you still got the gist of it.
Thanks. And you got brochures.
Yes, thank you for the brochures, and
Uh-huh.
I want to thank WBRT too, for their ads, I mean, for their, we, of course, and, that's publicity's report.
Okay, our annual recognition event committee was Janet and Carrie and Jane and I, for the most part. And I was very pleased with the way our event turned out. And we had a good turnout. We had, what would y'all guess, between 60 and 100 people. And we had, those kids read their essays, or well, they weren't really essays, they read their writings. We displayed the artwork. We probably had a little more food than we needed. Carrie and I talked about cutting back a little bit on our food and that kind of thing. And I got a lot of positive feedback from various people. And, you know, but we also had, you know, some considerations. And I don't know, Carrie, did you want to share that? Because I think it's worth talking about.
We had one student that, I think she might have been a 10th grader.
Uh-huh.
10th grader.
One of the high school ones.
Anyway, after the program was over, I had two people to come up, and I tried to explain to them about her essay. She started out by saying that she was a racist, and then she, later on she said that everybody there was a racist. So it was kind of hard for me to try to get around, but I don't know whether she meant that we had those qualities in us, that maybe we had the prejudices, and she had seen it. I just really couldn't wrap it around, you know, what she meant, you know. But I was taking it to be that she meant we all had those qualities in us and we didn't want to, so maybe she was very deep, maybe she was very learned. But some people didn't like it, they didn't some people would say that, you know, she can't speak for me. I'm not a racist, or I don't understand where she's coming from, but that's the only one. Did you hear anything
No,
else?
we had just talked about that, and
But I couldn't get her reasoning. Could you get her reasoning?
I thought it was dramatic effect. I thought that
Yes.
it was how you call people's attention to something with
And I
dramatic
believe
statement.
she has it, and she's just discovering that she has that, and it just came out.
I think it was a
So,
call too
Because she
to
said
look
she didn't think she
within.
was at all until she experienced it with her,
Yes.
through her boyfriend. And then she,
Well, she was,
it kind of opened her
dating her
eyes that it
boyfriend
did
was
exist.
of another, you know, nationality, and they had treated him a certain way. I
Mhm.
didn't.
And then she got some literature from,
Did you all talk to her?
Oh, I didn't know,
Okay.
no,
I
I mean,
didn't
not,
know.
and because this was just a comment that was made
I-
by someone to carry after the
But
meeting.
if you can look at it as different, it's hard to know who you are and how, what you know about how deep she went. You know, she kind of went into her own self, you know, I think, you know. But I couldn't dig it. I didn't dig it.
Well, I was
Yeah.
very impressed with the
Yeah.
variety of writings that the different students
Oh, they
did.
were really good.
And I thought they came at the issue of diversity from many angles.
Uh-huh.
And I stand behind strongly the choices that we made and the
Mhm.
freedom of speech involved in
Yeah.
her doing that. And
Yeah.
I think whenever someone says something that is compelling, we look at it and she was asking us to look within ourselves, and it could have made individuals uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
But it was not offensive, it was well stated, it was,
I don't think it was offensive or anything. It
In
was
my
just
opinion.
something that I had 3 different points going in my mind,
uh-huh,
you know, and that was just me, you know, but I felt like she was really deep, you know.
well, you know how we all read a book and we all
Yeah.
get something a little different out of it?
Yeah.
Or we all watch a movie and we get something a little different out of it? That was kind of my take on the comment. But I think it's worth knowing that it made, these things that we did made people think about something that they hadn't thought about before, even if it
Yes,
was
it
maybe a
did.
little uncomfortable.
The
And then
human
this-
condition, you think she was commenting on?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I think she was saying that, you know, I'm a racist, but I didn't know I was.
Mhm.
And until blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
Maybe at the end, it was something
But I
like
don't think it was racist. She called it racist, but it was sort of like a prejudice thing.
Mhm.
I didn't think it was, you know. But one girl, she was overcome. She was speaking and she just, it really moved her. She really believed in what she was writing, and she was really,
Mhm. She broke up a little bit and recovered nicely and read the
Yeah.
rest of it, and then got a lot of support from the group for having had the
yeah.
chutzpah to do it, I
And the
guess.
other thing about it that they're thinking of, and these were freshmen and sophomore, they were not, they had criticism of our town in a way.
Well, they were looking at it. Yeah,
Yes.
and
I mean, you know, they were. I mean, you know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't harsh, but it wasn't like we got the greatest town and nothing ever goes wrong, because that's not the way they were writing.
We're far from perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Personally, I went away just feeling so much better about everything because these
Me too.
kids
Yeah.
said such wonderful things that, and I've been kind of impressed over things that are going on
They're
in the country.
thinking.
And it lifted my spirits, and I've told a lot of people, we have hope,
Mhm.
because we've got some good kids that are
Oh.
thinking,
Yeah.
They
We
might
had
be-
well over 200 essays.
yeah,
And they were like that, weren't they?
That's
It
fascinating.
was almost
It
made
was.
you want to just,
yes.
oh,
You go,
You know,
yes, there's hope.
you can't tell the book by the cover, because some of them, you know, they were
depth.
just really deep.
Mhm.
And the variety.
That's what I like too,
Yeah.
was the variety. It wasn't just an
Yeah.
essay, it was, like you said, you tried to make it a variety of things.
And we got
Yes.
news releases, we got poetry, we got straight up 3.5 essays. We got, you know, just
Graphics, there was a graphic, remember that graphic that took?
Yeah.
Oh, what are the graphics?
Kind of like a poster or whatever.
And
well,
Kelly's
that
song?
those were art
Yeah.
submissions.
Okay,
That
arts
was really
Uh-huh.
something.
The what?
That showed you, I would tell you about, different, cultures. We were supposed to be getting, last year we had Kelly and his guys and they had a nice program. So this year we decided to get Kelly again. Well, I'm thinking that, Kelly, you're thinking about it being a program that you call it a chorus, or we're gonna have singing, like Kelly does have singing, it's either chorus or a choir. I'm thinking about Kelly as being something else, you know, and I don't talk to Kelly about it because I figure she's already gotten the choir. Where she said, and I said,
Okay.
well, I don't know, because she's already got the choir. And so she's thinking about the choir being Kelly.
Mhm.
So at the last minute here, we are running around running around trying to get Kelly and the guys. So Kelly says I have to be in martial arts at this time, and that's the time we want him. So I told him, I said, well, can't you get something up? And he said, well, if I can get something up, I'll be there. And I'm scared to death that he's not gonna show up. And here comes Kelly. So he's a songwriter, so we didn't have a lot of people, but he's a songwriter, so we pushed that out. So it came out all right. He came and sang a song, and
I'm sorry, I was in Wichita.
I am too. I
I'm
am
not
too.
sure I've ever heard him sing. I've seen him
Yeah.
lead a
Yeah.
bunch of times.
he
He
sings.
did, and he played
And he
piano.
writes he's writing a play for Black Arts Council.
Is he sang an original song, and I couldn't tell you a thing about it, except that at the time I thought, boy, this fits right in. And he played the piano, and I forgot to mention in the report that made me think, because Reverend Brock held the microphone for him.
Oh, yeah.
We honored the NAACP as our organization that we, representative of diversity in Nelson County, and he did a nice presentation, little speech, kind of telling us about reestablishing the NAACP and in our community, and I did the whole thing without calling it the NCAA once, which was, I went, the NAACP. And afterwards, he says to me, he says, do you know what that means? And I said, yes, I do. But I got it mixed up in my mind, and he thought I had a speech defect or something, you know, and it was kicking in. But anyway, but that was we were pleased with our annual recognition event, and hopefully next year we'll,
Well done, well done.
thank you. And complaint committee, Ms. Paula Pace?
No complaints. Have had none. Nobody's called, nobody's referred anybody.
Okay.
It's always good.
Okay, and just FYI, since you're new, the complaints are specific to housing, jobs, public accommodations, and sometimes financial transactions. So, you know, if you've got, there's sort of informal things that we hear sometimes, but formal complaints are rare. Okay, thank you. Our ad hoc committee report, and the diversity committee is you and somebody, who? Miss Carrie.
Oh, you told me?
So, that's,
Janet?
Janet
uh-huh,
and I. So
and
we're talking about the one to come.
I don't know what we're talking about, that's what I want to ask. I want to know what our ad hoc, how long this ad hoc committee needs to exist, and, you know, maybe we need to re-examine, put that in new business
I
in
will.
January,
Yeah,
and talk about it.
I think that it should be put in new business in January.
Could we do that? Jane?
One
Because
thing that the diversity committee did do that, that wouldn't fall in with the others, is that it did buttermilk days.
Yes.
We reported on that, she reported on that the last time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that is
And
and I suppose if we keeping we might find something else, like we could have probably had a presence in this Christmas parade, if we thought of far enough ahead of time. So, but yeah, put it into business in January, what, to who's on the committee or to
Well,
purpose
just-
of the committee? Or because,
Just to revisit it, it's the
Yeah.
existence of it as an ad hoc committee and what we want.
You can, you know, within the committee report, you can address that now if you like. I mean,
Yeah.
that's completely reasonable.
Well, since we just have, we don't have Janet here, you know,
Mhm.
it might be better to put it in the new business, but,
Good.
I mean, because I think it's got lots of possibilities, but
Yeah.
this year, the diversity committee and the annual recognition committee kind of married and did the event, the annual recognition event was really, you know, we really worked together, and I'm just kind of want to know what the separate existence of them.
Well, the other one
Yes.
that's coming up is the diversity for the city. The city, we didn't say anything about county, but we were gonna try to have an event where we could bring in all the different ethnic and nationalities and all that, and have them to maybe have like a fiesta or something, you know. And the Germans would do their thing, and different nationalities, you know. If you're Irish, you would have a stand, and maybe your cultural way you want to do dress and everything
Mhm.
like that. So it's going to take a lot of time. And, although, you know, we have talked about it,
Mhm.
made plans, but never brought it here.
Okay.
You wouldn't want us to bring it here. You heard how we were trying to get together.
so the diversities report is that you are working on a city event?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's what I'm.
We have to find a
So-
place to have
So you're working,
Oktoberfest, and they've got all these different festivals. And in order to have ours, we have to have somewhere to put it, and we don't want it to be the alcoholic thing. We want it to be our,
The
you know,
Bourbon
our
Festival and Diversity celebration.
I know you said
different drinks or?
Yeah, we might have drinks, but, you know, we don't,
Did your committee have anything to do with the nice library display that is out in the
No.
lobby? It has different prints from different nationalities.
No.
Artsy. Clever.
we'll take credit
It is
for
clever.
it.
Call attention to it.
Pat and I did that.
It's fabulous.
I've looked at it.
Yeah, well, be sure to notice it, it has, just has
Dark of
scratch.
the night.
It's a display in the lobby of the
Yeah.
library, it's on diversity. Would you call attention to it?
Okay, so we will, be working on the new event, or the upcoming event of sorts for the city. And we'll, when we look at new business next time, well, I think we can fold it, we can do something with with that committee as far as our goals for 1918, or 2018. Listen to me.
NCAA.
I know, I've got a problem. It's like a neurons don't exactly.
We operate on
Yeah.
fiscal year too, which makes it, as far as goals go too.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we don't really need to maybe make that in January then. How about,
Maybe we do because it's good budget.
okay, well, let me wait till I get to new business and then I'll suggest that. But ordinance committee, can you do that for me,
Yeah,
please?
I think Bruce was our chair, is that correct? And so there was a committee of 3 with an ex officio of the chairman. And it was Jane and I accepted the task of rewriting the ordinance, which, if you haven't read it recently, it's rather disjointed, it's lengthy, it's cumbersome, and it needs rewriting. And so I have made progress, but on further consideration, I think I owe it to the rest of the committee and any new member to wait until we can talk about a strategy that I've developed going forward for the city and county to enact. All I've told you before is that one change that I'd like to incorporate, and I think the committee is in agreement, is that we would modify the language such that the legal responsibility would be accepted by the city or the county, depending on what action was taking place, so that there would be an attorney rather than a committee that's pursuing any action that may come about. And the language is such that if the city accepts the language, they would be accepting that responsibility, county, same. So that's one we had talked about before. But as for the other portion of it, I think that we ought to have either a reform committee or just Jane and I and the chairman talking about that strategy.
So you're saying that the legal responsibility for any
Enforcement.
enforcement
Enforcement's what I was saying.
would be equal for both, or that would be an either or?
The point is now,
This is a suggestion.
it's the responsibility of the commission to pursue that, to subpoena, to do all of that, and then there's capability and financial ability. And if the city government is told of and wants to pursue this, then their legal counsel, their county attorney or city attorney would be the one who would process that through the court, rather than leaving it to laymen.
I see,
I agree.
okay.
Because when I was on the complaint committee with the Kentucky Board of Counselors, I was on the complaint committee, and then when we would formalize the complaint, then attorneys and lawyers and judges came into the picture. We stepped out, other than the information we had, because that's not our expertise.
So you're looking to include in the rewriting of this something where we're a step in the process rather than, and then it change the way the process of a complaint would go.
The actual
The way that it would
pursuit
play out.
of
Of a
penalties,
complaint.
yeah, to bring it before the courts, it would be the city or the county.
Yes, okay, all right, so that's something that you all are working on. And-
That's actually, yes.
Okay, all right,
And we had discussed that at a meeting, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings ago, and so I don't feel badly about bringing it up with new members. But
okay,
on the new strategy that I'm exploring, I have talked about it with Bruce on the same day he told me he was gonna be moving to Florida. So, Bruce is the chairman, so if, the three of us can talk about it subsequent to this meeting.
okay, all right. Okay, do we have any old business that we haven't addressed in any of our committee reports that anyone would like to bring out? New business.
I'd like to move that we go on record as opposed to the federal tax bills that have passed both houses in different forms, either of which will make it harder for local governments and commissions and agencies to function. I'm tempted to want to say, do we recommend,
You want to state it again?
yes, that we go on record as opposed to either of the two federal tax bills that have, one has passed the House and one has passed the Senate, either of which will make it harder for local governments.
Is that within our scope to
That's my question.
do that? Yeah.
That's my,
That's your question?
yeah. Is that within our scope to, as a commission, to make that kind of action?
I would think it would be under, since our purpose is broad, in the statement of in the ordinance, that we
You're making
should be
a-
able to take a stand in regard to, in regard to any action that's going to impact local government. Mr. Brown?
Well, I'm reminded of the the water issue, that when we wanted to
Mhm.
donate some money to send water up to people in Michigan, and we received a lot of flack over that.
We sure did.
Yeah.
We're still, I think we were in the.
We had a
I
genuine,
wasn't on the commission, but it was,
Mhm.
but the commission was in its purview
it was
to take a stand.
well,
Yeah.
I don't know, they didn't,
Yeah.
it didn't seem like it was, but we got a lot of, but it was a kindness of heart that we did it, but, so I'm just wondering about whether or not if we look at what, in the ordinance, what are the areas that we can address, which we said a while ago were,
Those four.
yeah,
And it will affect all four of those. And anything that affects something as broad as a budget is going to affect.
but that, if somebody came to us with a complaint about the way their taxes were done, we couldn't do anything about that, could we?
No.
I'm just asking a question, I'm just asking a question, but I mean, you could, so let me ask, when you say go on the record of,
Or just.
opposed to that, how are you going to go on the record, just say right here on the record today, I'm opposed to that, or?
Oh, well, just that we can take a stand on an issue, I would think, as a commission, if that issue is going to impact people, if it's going to impact, if it's going to impact what will make it possible for them to pursue happiness.
Would
Okay.
this vote then be sent to our legislators or what?
I was thinking
what would the
that
process?
more to city council or to fiscal court. Or just that we made a public statement in regard to the prayer day.
I guess I must not have been on here at that
Well,
time.
did we get to, carry that out because, we
Yeah,
spoke
well, we
up.
did and we didn't.
Yeah, I don't
The
think
timing was not, we
The
didn't.
timing was.
No, we didn't.
because it was, it happened, that she wasn't gonna come before we could.
And what was that voter stance?
I don't know if we want to go there.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the commission either, but I think I heard a little bit.
I don't think I was either at that time. I
Madam
was
Chair,
on.
I don't,
Yes, you must have been, because you and Liz
Yeah.
came on together, but maybe you weren't at the meeting, but yeah.
I guess I was the only one.
did we
But,
consider?
We did consider
We
it,
did.
and we modified it to make it so that it would be.
Encouraging prayer?
No,
No, it
we
wasn't.
made a very safe statement.
A safe statement.
Very
The
safe.
initial
We neither
motion was an
encourage nor
unsafe
discourage
statement.
prayer.
No.
I forgot how we
We
sat
weren't.
around and finally got the words
We
together.
had
and
time
they-
with the wording.
And they were really,
It was affirmative of the rights of people,
people.
of the
Yeah,
rights of
that's
people,
what we
and
got at.
that's what it boiled down to.
People have a right.
And I didn't.
Madam Chair, we can have, and of course, this is, I think, it's reasonable to say that the opinion of one or more of the members of the commission is that this would be bad for local governments and therefore bad for human beings. But it also, if we do something like this, I think we would therefore have a responsibility on most legislation that comes before Kentucky or the U.S. Congress, Kentucky's General Assembly or the U.S. Congress, and which ones do we pick out? Which ones do we pursue? And I'm
And I would
sure
agree.
we could all look and find some periodical or reporting thing that thinks, no, it's going to be great for local government. And so I don't know anything about the tax bill, and I think reasonable people will disagree on whether or not it's good or bad. So,
I personally have read all 500 pages.
And you have read all 500 pages, yeah. And I'm thinking in terms of, we're just a small commission,
Yeah.
but you do have city and local governments who are on record as opposed. And you have agencies like, agency is not the right word, they have groups like the Leagues of Cities that are opposed.
and
So
it's
I was
reasonable
just,
for them to-
like gonna sign our name to the
Well,
opposed.
And I
To
personally,
send that we are opposed to this huge tax break for the wealthy who may even be opposed themselves. And there's double taxation of the other provisions in the bill, sorry.
And I personally am very opposed to it also, but I'm just wondering how that fits within the scope of as a commission. I'm not sure what we do with it, where we go with it, and what, like you said, what do we do with other legislation? Because I'm opposed to lots of legislation.
Yes.
But, I don't know where that fits within the scope of our.
It's reasonable for a league of cities to voice their opinion on it. And, I think I agree with you on that. I can't really find it,
Oh,
unless we comment on everything.
would you find it that a city or a county could also be opposed to, or a state to a federal legislation?
But they've got a city and a county have a broader base, charter than we do.
Mhm.
Charge, or what do you want to call it? We have 4
Mission.
areas.
Our mission.
Mission, right. That's the thing.
But our mission statement is broad. I mean, the preamble to it
Within-
is very broad.
Within those areas, it addresses those areas, so you could change the ordinance to where we go to we look at that would be a way to, go.
Well, if you look at the
That's gonna be,
ordinance,
whoa.
the ordinance purpose is broad. It is broadly stated. So, but again, all I'm saying is like if you sign a petition, it doesn't have a lot of clout, but it is making a statement that,
Well,
and again, like I said, I expected my motion to die for lack of a second.
I appreciate your passion on so many different things.
Well,
Personally, I'd second in a heartbeat, and I'm still, and being new, I still know I'm not a real good grasp of how broad our scope goes. I'm just thinking it may be outside of that, although I hear you very clearly that it affects anybody and everybody in all organizations and counties and individuals, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess my only hesitation of second is that I don't know how it fits within this commission per se. So.
and we could of course wait till January. We could see, I don't know, but cities and counties and groups have taken a stand.
Yeah, they have usually an executive leadership in a league of cities, for example. And they have people who specialize in legislation and who analyze it and gather. And so then that lobbyist or that specialist will come back and say, this is gonna hurt Paducah. It'll be okay for Mayfield, but Paducah's gonna get hurt by this because of whatever. And so that's what
And we
they're
should be able
concerned.
to say this is going to hurt Lawrencetown or Nelson County. But again, we're belaboring an issue.
Well, you could say this is
We at
gonna-
least brought it up, okay, and we need to move on.
Well, do you want to put that into to new business next time? Or you want to continue that, or do you want to?
you might be able to come up with something like, you could say this would be hard for affordable housing, therefore we'd probably foresee more complaints, and therefore it would
But it would be
overload us.
easy to say that
It
it
would
would be hard
overload us,
for, it would
so
be.
we would-
Well, and by January, you will have some information from most likely the special session, if they call it, before January.
No, I mean, this bill is, I'm talking about the
You're
federal.
talking about the
Right.
federal bill.
Oh,
which
you
is-
mean the
this is-
combined
You'll have
bill.
added information.
But then it will be law, so it's a
Yeah.
little late to, it will be law then. Now, the time to say you're opposed is before it is law. And it will be, or it won't be, they may not come up with a compromise bill, but they're close enough together that they probably will have this new tax bill.
I think they're supposed to try to have it by Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bias says they're also not listening, but that's just my bias.
Well, yeah.
And then you would, if you wanted to do that for affordable housing, for example, you would say, according to this respected group, it will affect affordable housing in the following states, and so we join with them in whatever.
And what it's planning, like not being able to, some of it is projected, but it does have in one of the bills, maybe both, that you won't be able to deduct mortgage payments. That is going to affect housing. And housing is our purview.
I think that would.
Because you won't
probably-
be able to deduct your interest when you buy a
I
house.
think that's
you know,
incorrectly stated, but
Yeah,
there's
I'm
there's
not
some
expert
portion
on
of it for certain income, for certain
Yes,
levels.
certainly, yeah. The bill is much more complicated than,
It penalizes wealthy people on the mortgage deduction.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
depends
over what,
which one.
$100,000, they can only up to a certain point, I think.
Well, I
On-
suggest,
It's much higher.
Yeah, it's,
Right.
I suggest that since this has not nobody has taken this up as a motion, no one has seconded this motion, that we let this issue be further investigated, that both the appropriateness. I would like for you to, Jane, I would charge you to look at the mission of our organization and see if it is appropriate, how, make a better argument for us taking a stand on specific issues like this. Because I think we're asking a group of people to make a decision on something that's real complex in a really fast timeline. And whereas individually you might feel that way, you can't always stand up as a group and say this group takes this position on this issue at this time today. I think we're kind of sort of a rush to judgment, in my personal opinion.
and you're almost like asking me to do something that even the legislators probably won't have done, and that's to
That's
have
true.
read all 500 pages.
I would
As I
be
started
willing
out,
to bet
it's
that
the unintended
I'm in
consequences. Unintended
Yeah.
consequences that are often
I agree.
the dearth of them. And we have in our purpose to preserve the public safety, health, and general welfare. Anything falls under general welfare. So I think if at least I have brought it to everyone's attention, and maybe that's the whole
Well,
purpose.
you know,
And my whole- that's my whole
To be
agenda.
fair, an argument would be is that we can make a statement based on our mission, but we can only take complaints about 4 areas.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's
That's a
true.
lawyer, isn't it, huh?
But
Really nipping it in, but anyway.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm an educator, so I just
Well, I
throw
was
it out
too
there
in
and
my
see where it
former life,
goes.
so, yeah.
I don't
Okay.
I have,
Okay.
I have.
Do I have any?
But no, do I have to do your charge because that's more work than the legislature?
No, you do not. You can let that go. Do we have any comments from guests? Karen?
I enjoyed the recognition event, and having read through so many of those essays, it
Thank you.
really is a joy to hear the student reading it. You get that voice, and
Really do.
you get to understand where they want the emphasis in that piece of writing. I one time found this is going back a long ways, an album of Sylvia Plath reading her own poetry. And that really gives you a sense of what she meant when she wrote those poems, where those emphases are.
How many were read aloud?
So we had 6.
Oh, you mean our essay? 6. Or our, I keep saying essay.
3
writings.
from
Middle school and
middle
3
school
from
and 3 from high school,
Good.
of many
Yeah.
that were out there. So that was, and I feel like with that one essay that got you, I think you're right that she was kind of having us look at our internal prejudices. And I go back to one time I was doing some research and I found that there were pizza restaurants in Colombia, South America. Pizza in South America, that was my ethnocentricity coming through. You know, and it was like, well, why wouldn't there be pizza restaurants there? You know, and that wasn't necessarily a prejudice, but it was a image in my mind of where I would expect to find a particular restaurant. So, you know, those little things come up. And then on the recent motion that was put out there, you know, as I look at the 4 items that are under the purview of the commission, and it's generally individuals that are approaching the commission with regard to those. I could see why cities and states would oppose certain legislation because they're looking at that fiscal revenue part of that and how they're giving services. But I have to agree, I don't see how it fits with the Human Rights Commission as far as you're going to have individuals coming here. Yes, there could going to be detrimental effects to those 4 areas, but we're looking at how individuals in this area are being affected as they are trying to get these different services within the community rather than nationally at large. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So that's all my comments.
Thank you. I think you hit the 2-minute, 3-minute time limit too. Our next meeting will be January the 2nd here, and you'll be in Texas, and hopefully everybody else will be here. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
We have been made and seconded. Ayes?
Yeah, say 32
Nay.
minutes.
Thank you for going right now. Yes.
Okay.